고생하셨어요. 저희 2.0 뮤직비디오
이거 찍어놨어야 되는데 이거.
Amazing. The surprising facts behind BTS's 2.0 MV, Taehyung's action on set takes the spotlight. Hello ARMY. Welcome back to BTS Fans Channel. This time, I don't want you to rush. I don't want you to just watch and move on. I want you to truly pause for a moment. Take a breath. And go deeper into this story. Let the noise fade for a second. Let everything slow down. Because what you're about to hear isn't just information. It's an experience. Because what we're about to talk about today is not just about BTS MV 2.0. This is about what the camera doesn't fully capture. About the small moments. The quiet details. The almost invisible choices. That actually hold the biggest meaning. And in the middle of it all, there is one presence that quietly changes everything. Kim Taehyung. At the beginning of the filming day, the sky felt ordinary. Nothing seemed unusual at first glance. The set was filled with technical sounds. Instructions echoed from every direction. Cables stretched across the floor. Cameras adjusted again and again. Lighting shifted, tested, perfected. Everything moved in a fast, almost mechanical rhythm. The BTS members arrived with their own energy. There was laughter. There were jokes. A natural warmth that filled the space. It felt alive. Comfortable. Familiar. But in another corner, Taehyung stood. Silent. Not an empty silence. Not the kind that feels distant. But a silence that feels full. His gaze wasn't just looking. It felt like he was observing, absorbing, understanding. As if he was already stepping into something deeper. And from that moment, something began to shift. The first surprising fact. Taehyung prepares his emotions long before the camera starts rolling. One of the crew members revealed that before a take begins, Taehyung often steps aside. Not to rest. Not to check his phone. Not to casually wait. But to enter. To enter the character. To enter a world that isn't fully visible yet, but already real to him. He closes his eyes for a few seconds. Slows down his breathing. Lets the outside noise disappear. And when he opens his eyes again, there's a change. A subtle one, but undeniable. It's no longer just Taehyung standing there. There is depth. There is intention. There is a quiet story already unfolding behind his eyes. And from that small moment, people begin to notice. This is not just preparation. This is transformation. The second fact. Taehyung doesn't just follow direction. He creates atmosphere. In one particular scene, the director gave simple instructions. Movement. Eye direction. Timing. Clear. Structured. Planned. But when Taehyung performed it, the result felt completely different. He slowed his movement, just slightly. He held his expression, just a little longer. He allowed silence to exist between actions. And somehow, that silence spoke louder than anything else. The monitor showed something unexpected. Not just a visually beautiful frame, but something alive. Something breathing. Emotion that didn't feel acted, but experienced. And once again, the entire crew fell silent. Because they knew. This kind of presence cannot be taught. It comes from somewhere deeper. The third fact. Taehyung's interaction with his surroundings is incredibly detailed. When he walks through the set, he doesn't just move from one point to another. He notices everything. The texture of a surface. The placement of an object. The way light falls across a wall. Sometimes he gently touches a prop. Sometimes he slightly adjusts something small. Sometimes he simply pauses and lets the environment exist with him. As if everything around him is part of the story he's telling. And what's interesting is, the camera doesn't always capture these moments. They are not always visible in the final MV. But he still does them. Because for Taehyung, every detail matters. Every element builds the emotional world. And slowly, the crew begins to understand. He's not just performing in the scene. He's living inside it. The fourth fact. There was a moment when the energy on set completely shifted. The day grew longer. Fatigue became more visible. Repetition started to wear people down. Some scenes had to be redone multiple times. Timing became tighter. Pressure slowly built up. And in moments like that, tension usually rises. But when it was Taehyung's turn, something unexpected happened. He didn't show exhaustion. He didn't show frustration. Instead, he brought calm. Not loud energy. Not forced motivation. Just presence. His focus, steady. His movements, controlled. His expression, grounded. And somehow, that calmness spread. The atmosphere softened. The pressure eased. As if his presence alone was enough to reset the space. The fifth fact. Taehyung's improvisations were more frequent than people realized. Some of the most memorable moments, the ones fans replay again and again, were never originally planned. They happened in the moment. A subtle smile that appeared unexpectedly. A brief glance that felt deeply intentional. A small gesture that changed the meaning of a scene. They were not written. They were felt. And every time it happened, the reaction was the same. Silence first. Then quiet amazement. Because everyone understood. They were witnessing something happening in real time. Something honest. Something unrepeatable. The sixth fact. Taehyung remains in character, even when the camera stops. During breaks, the atmosphere shifts again. Members relax. They talk. They laugh. They recharge. But Taehyung often stays still. Not distant. Not disconnected. Just still inside the moment. Because for him, the character hasn't ended yet. The story hasn't paused. It continues, quietly. And when filming resumes, there's no adjustment needed. No visible switch. Because he never left. The seventh fact, and perhaps the most unforgettable one. It happened during the final take. By that time, everyone was tired. The long day had taken its toll. People were ready to wrap up. This was supposed to be the last moment. A closing shot. A final piece before everything ended. But then, Taehyung did something unexpected. He didn't just perform the scene. He felt it, more deeply than before. His expression carried weight. His eyes held something raw, something real. There was a quiet intensity that no one had seen in the earlier takes. And when the director finally said cut, no one moved. Not immediately. Because something lingered in the air. Something unspoken. Everyone kept looking at the monitor. Still processing. Still absorbing. As if they needed a few extra seconds to return to reality. Then slowly, applause began. Soft at first, then growing, until the entire set joined in. Not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. Because they knew that moment was real. And moments like that don't happen often. And from everything we've seen, one thing becomes clear. Taehyung is not just an idol, not just a performer. He is a storyteller. Not through loud expressions, not through dramatic gestures, but through subtlety, through gaze, through timing, through silence. And maybe that's why his presence always feels different. Not because he tries to stand out, but because he fully exists in every second. Completely. Honestly. So ARMY, the next time you watch BTS MV 2.0, don't just look. Feel. Pay attention to the pauses. The small expressions. The moments that almost pass unnoticed. Because that's where the real story lives. And in the middle of it all, Taehyung once again proves that without saying much, he can make an entire world stand still. Thank you for watching. And see you in the next story, ARMY.